Up to this point, we've been discussing what social psychologists call attitudes, which are our general beliefs and opinions about things like bicycles, shoes, the environment, gender, and race. Social psychologists also spend a lot of time studying what they call attributions, which are our internal judgments about why we or others did something. For example, imagine that you're in a class and someone walks in 5 minutes late. You might come to some judgment about why the person was late, and that judgment might be influenced by the person's age, gender, race, clothing, etc. But now imagine that you're 5 minutes late for class. How will you explain your own lateness? In other words, to what do you attribute your own behavior, and to what do you attribute the behavior of other people? Social psychologists have studied many factors that influence our attributions about our own behavior and the behavior of other people. Here I want to focus on one particular discovery that I find to be very useful in my own life. It's called the fundamental attribution error, and it's really a microcosm of the whole field of social psychology. In general, we like to think that each person has a set of core ideas about what they like and what they don't like, what's good and what's bad, what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And we like to think that people's actions are guided by these core ideas in a very conscious way. This is why we have a judicial system that punishes people when their actions are considered inappropriate. We assume they've consciously decided to break the law unless there's clear evidence of something like a brain tumor. However, one of the key findings from social psychology is that people often behave in ways that are inconsistent with their ideals, their intentions, and their personality. They may be influenced by authority figures or by social pressure to do things that are inconsistent with their sense of right and wrong, or true and false. We haven't talked about it yet, but psychologists have also shown that people's behavior is influenced by non-social factors like the color of the paint on the walls or how much sleep they got the night before. These social and non-social factors are called situational factors. In other words, people's behavior is often influenced by the situation rather than by their values, beliefs, and personality. It's not that values, beliefs, and personality have no impact on behavior. It's that situational factors have a bigger impact than people usually realize. It might seem obvious that behavior is influenced by the situation. However, in daily life, people tend to underestimate how strongly behavior is impacted by situational factors, and instead, we tend to attribute people's behavior to their internal psychological characteristics. This tendency is called the fundamental attribution error. People attribute behavior to the stable psychological characteristics of the individual, even when the situation is clearly what's responsible for the behavior. And we especially do this when we explain the behavior of other people. For example, imagine that your roommate leaves a mess in the kitchen one evening. Even though she doesn't do this very often, you assume it's because she's just a slob at heart. In fact, while she was eating dinner, she realized she was late for a review session. She felt bad about leaving a mess, but the situation made her decide that it was more important to get a good grade on the exam and that she'd clean up when she got home from the review session. She told you that she was late for the review session, and yet you attribute it to some intrinsic personality characteristic rather than to the situation. People tend to make this kind of misattribution a lot, and we rarely make the mistake in the other direction, assuming that someone's behavior was the result of the situation, even when it's clear that it was a result of their psychological characteristics. That's why this is called the fundamental attribution error.